Welcome to Lead in English, the podcast from BEAL Episode 5, the Business English Academy for Leadership and Management, based in Verl, Germany. I'm Darren, and today we are doing something a little different. We are going to have some fun, because today's episode is about communication styles, specifically what happens when an American, a British person, and a German walk into a business meeting. And no, that is not the start of a joke. Although, honestly, sometimes it feels like it. Joining me today are Ryan. He's American. He's been living and working in Germany for 4 years. And Sophia, who is Spanish and works across German and international business every day. Welcome to you both.
Thanks for having me. Yeah, 4 years in Germany, and I still catch myself making mistakes that would have been totally fine back in Chicago. Like day one at my first German company, I walked into a meeting, grabbed a coffee, sat down, and said to the guy next to me, "So, how was your weekend?" And he looked at me like I had just asked him to share his bank account details. Complete silence. I thought I had offended him somehow. Turns out he was just German.
Ha! I know this feeling. In Spain, that question is how you start every meeting. You always check in with people first. It is part of building trust. But in Germany, I learned very quickly that people want to get to the point, and in international business, you have to find a middle ground.
And this is exactly what we are going to unpack today. Because when you put an American, a British person, and a German in the same business meeting, you have 3 completely different ideas of what professional communication looks like. And none of them are wrong, they are just different. So let's start with something everyone does: small talk. Ryan, the American approach.
So in America, small talk is not optional. It is a professional skill. You walk in, you say, "How are you doing?" You talk about sport, the weather, the weekend, you're warm, you're enthusiastic. That's awesome. Absolutely. Great to meet you. It is a performance of friendliness. And the thing is, we actually mean it, mostly. But it is also strategic. You are building rapport before you get to business. The relationship is part of the deal.
Now, the British version. And I say this as someone who is Irish, so I can observe this from a slight distance. The British also do small talk. But it is different. It is more understated. Nobody says, "That's amazing." Nobody says, "Awesome." You say, "Not bad, actually," and that means things are going brilliantly. You say, "It's quite good," and that is basically a standing ovation. British understatement is an art form. And the key difference from American small talk is that British small talk often involves mild self-deprecation. You make a joke at your own expense. It signals that you do not take yourself too seriously. It is a trust signal.
That took me a while to get. I would say something like, "I crushed that presentation," and my British colleagues would wince. Because you just don't say that. You say, "I think it went reasonably well," and everyone understands you think it went brilliantly.
And then there is Germany, where the meeting starts when the meeting starts. There is no warm-up. You sit down, you open the agenda, and you begin. This is not rude. This is respect for everyone's time. In Spain, I used to think Germans were cold. Now I understand they are efficient. The relationship is built through the work, not before it.
So what does this mean for you if you are working in English across all 3 cultures? Phrase 1, the calibrated opener. Instead of going full American enthusiasm or full German efficiency, you use something in the middle. Try this. "Good to see everyone. Let's get started. I know we have a lot to cover today." That opener works everywhere. It is warm enough for the Americans, direct enough for the Germans, and politely understated enough for the British. It signals respect without being either aggressive or cold.
I started using that, and it genuinely changed the energy in my cross-cultural meetings. Because before, I was going in too hot, too much American energy. And my German colleagues were already slightly irritated before we had even started.
Now let's talk about directness, because this is where it gets really interesting. Germans are direct, Americans think they are direct, and the British are almost never direct, but they will make you think they are. Ryan, give us the American version of saying something is wrong.
Okay, so an American would say, I think we might want to reconsider this approach. That is American for, this is wrong. Please change it. We soften things, but the message is still there if you know how to read it. We also say things like, that's an interesting idea, which means we do not like the idea at all. Or, I hear what you're saying, which means I disagree with everything you just said.
And the British version is even more indirect. If a British colleague says, that's quite brave, they mean it is a terrible idea. If they say you might want to think about whether, they mean stop immediately. If they say with the greatest respect, brace yourself, because what follows is going to be devastating. The British use politeness as a weapon of precision. The meaning is hidden inside layers of courtesy.
And then the German approach, which I now deeply respect. They just say it. If the plan is wrong, they say the plan is wrong. No softening, no layers, no, that's quite brave. Just, this will not work, and here is why. At first, for me, this felt aggressive. In Spain, you would never say that so directly to a colleague. But I realized over time that it is actually a form of respect. They trust you enough to tell you the truth.
So phrase 2 for working across these cultures, the direct but diplomatic frame. When you need to raise a concern in a mixed international meeting, try this. I want to flag a potential issue with this approach. Can we look at it together? That phrase does several things at once. It is direct enough for the Germans. You are flagging an issue clearly. It is collaborative enough for the Americans. Can we look at it together? Brings everyone in. And it is polite enough for the British. You are not attacking. You are flagging. It is a phrase that works across all three cultures without losing its meaning.
That phrase is gold. I use it constantly now. Because in my early days in Germany, I was either too soft, the American style, and the Germans thought I was not serious. Or I tried to be more German and went too direct, and my American colleagues thought I was being aggressive. You need the middle register.
Now, decision making. This is where the three cultures are perhaps most different. Sophia, you see this every day in international business. Walk us through it.
Yes. So in German business culture, decisions are made carefully, with a lot of preparation, and once a decision is made, it is made. You do not go back. You do not reopen it at the next meeting. The process is slow, but the commitment is total. In American business, decisions can be made fast, but they can also be reversed fast. There is a lot of energy, a lot of, let's move on this, and then sometimes a week later it changes. For Germans, this feels chaotic and unreliable. For Americans, they think they are being agile.
Ha, yes. I have been in German meetings where I said, let's decide this today, and the room went very quiet. Because for them, deciding today without full preparation is almost irresponsible. I had to learn to say, let's identify what we need in order to make this decision, instead of just pushing for a yes.
And the British approach to decisions is, characteristically, somewhat ambiguous. A British meeting might end with, I think we have a good sense of where we are heading. And everyone nods. And then two people leave the room with completely different understandings of what was decided, because nobody quite said it directly. Phrase 3. The decision confirmation. At the end of any cross-cultural meeting, say this. Before we close, let me confirm what we have agreed. Then state it clearly. This is not a British thing, not an American thing, not a German thing. It is a professional thing, and it saves enormous confusion.
I introduced this in my team meetings and it changed everything because we would have conversations in English where everyone was nodding, but the nods meant different things. Now we confirm. And the Germans love it because it is precise. The Americans love it because it feels like progress. And the British, well, they tolerate it, which means they secretly think it is a good idea.
Now email, because the communication style differences do not stop when the meeting ends. Ryan, American email style.
American emails are friendly, conversational, and often quite long. We start with hope you're doing well. We use exclamation marks. We say, please don't hesitate to reach out at the end. We also tend to say yes a lot in emails even when we mean maybe. Absolutely, let's explore this can sometimes mean, I will think about this and possibly never follow up.
German emails, by contrast, are short, structured, and precise. No, hope you're doing well. You state the subject, you state the request, you state the deadline. It can feel abrupt if you are not used to it, but it is actually very respectful of the reader's time. British emails sit somewhere in between. There is usually a polite opening, a clearly structured body, and a warm but measured close. No exclamation marks. Ever. Phrase 4 for email, the structured request. Whatever culture you are writing to, use this format. One sentence of context, one clear request, one deadline or next step. That is it. It works for Germans because it is direct. It works for Americans because it is clear. And it works for the British because it is professional.
My emails are so much better now. I used to write these long, friendly emails, and my German colleagues would respond to just one line of it, because that was the only line that actually contained information.
Your exercise for this week. Think about a recent meeting or email exchange with an international colleague. Which culture were they from? Now look at how you communicated. Were you too direct, too indirect, too warm, too cold? Pick one adjustment from today's episode and apply it in your next interaction. One phrase, one change. That is how this works. Ryan, Sophia, thank you. This has been a genuine pleasure.
Thanks, Darren. Really fun to talk about this stuff. It's so easy to think communication problems are about language, but often it's actually about culture.
Exactly. And once you understand the cultural layer, the language becomes so much easier to use well. Thank you for having us.
This was Lead in English from BEAL, the Business English Academy for Leadership and Management, based in Verl, Germany. If your team works across American, British, or German business cultures and needs to communicate with confidence in English, visit beal-d or find us on LinkedIn, YouTube, and Instagram. Like and subscribe. See you in episode 6.